right, welcome to this exam prep explainer. If you're an infrastructure admin gearing up to absolutely crush Objective 11.3 for your Nutanix NCP-MCI 7.5 certification, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we aren't just dryly memorizing facts. We're taking a magnifying glass to the strict limitations, the required versions, and the exact management workflows you need to protect your most critical management plane, Prism Central.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with why PCBR actually matters, walk through the strict version requirements, tackle the limitations and management workflows, dodge some nasty exam traps and edge cases, and finally, lock in the key facts you absolutely have to memorize.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, why PCBR matters, the operational reality of it all.
First up, let's make sure we're on the same page with our acronyms. PCBR, that stands for Prism Central Backup and Restore. Honestly, this is your official, fully automated, and, let's be real, your only supported lifeline to protect and migrate your Prism Central instances. And then we have AOS, the Acropolis operating system, which is the rock-solid foundation running down on your Nutanix clusters. Now, since Prism Central sits high above these clusters to manage the whole show, it literally holds the blueprint for your entire multi-cluster environment. So, think about it. Losing it without a solid backup? You'd be losing your centralized management, your reporting metrics, all those vital microservices, poof, gone. Protecting the state of Prism Central isn't just a good idea. It is absolutely crucial.
So, understanding the stakes here is critical. By protecting these instances, you're guaranteeing a swift recovery after a major disruption. A natural disaster, a massive power failure, or you're enabling a seamless migration over to other clusters. The official docs tell us you can set your recovery point objective, your RPO, anywhere from a tight 1 hour up to 24 hours. But the real game changer here, that's the recovery time objective, or RTO. It is a remarkably fast 90 minutes. Plus, with PCBR, you can hold on to up to 30 days of restore points. It brings back those critical service configurations along with the entire Prism Central instance, which minimizes your downtime drastically.
All right, moving on to Section 2. Let's look at the version requirements and the core technical needs.
When you're looking at where to actually send your backups, PCBR gives you a few distinct target options. You can use up to 3 registered AHV or ESXi clusters, AWS S3, Nutanix objects, or a generic S3 compliant object store. But here's the catch. Each of these targets comes with its own specific minimum version requirements for both Prism Central and AOS. Take a continuous backup strategy, for example. That's where you're streaming recovery points constantly to keep your RPO incredibly low. For that, you need at least one cluster running AOS 6.5.3.1. Now contrast that with a standard point-in-time backup that just takes scheduled snapshots. If you decide to point that backup at a generic S3 target, you are strictly required to have your Prism Central at version 7.5, and your target AOS must also be at 7.5.
And that brings us to a really strict underlying rule you've got to know. For that point-in-time backup to a generic S3 compliant object store, you absolutely must have your target clusters running AOS 7.5. Why? Because you need it to support this specific API interaction. If your cluster is running literally anything older than that, the restore just isn't going to work. Actually, the documentation explicitly warns that you'll get compatibility check failures if there's an AOS version mismatch during the installation phase of a restore. There's no way around it. You cannot bypass this check.
Okay, let's pivot to Section 3, Limitations and Management. We're getting into the operational mechanics now.
Before we go deeper, just a quick definition to keep us grounded. Prism Element, or PE, is that localized management interface sitting right on your individual clusters. If you want a simple analogy, think of Prism Element as the local branch manager, right? And it reports all the way up to the regional manager, which is Prism Central.
Now, when you see upgrade scenarios on the exam, you need to remember this really stark contrast. If you're just doing a standard Prism Central upgrade, the system is smart enough to handle PCBR automatically. It'll gently pause the backup of your configuration data and then automatically resume it once the upgrade is totally finished. Easy, right? But a microservices infrastructure upgrade is a totally different beast. This introduces our second concrete example, where you actually need manual intervention. Because a microservices infrastructure upgrade fundamentally changes how Prism Central services are packaged and deployed, literally moving away from monolithic virtual machines to a modern containerized architecture, the backup flow requires you to step in manually to ensure everything stays perfectly consistent. So, the crucial thing to remember for a microservices upgrade is this exact sequence.
Step 1. You have to manually disable PCBR before the upgrade even starts. Step 2. You perform the actual Prism Central upgrade. Then we hit Step 3, and listen up because this is the absolute kicker that always trips people up on the exam. You cannot just flip backups back on right away. Because that underlying container framework got a massive update, you first have to upgrade at least one Prism element in the cluster to the minimum supporting AOS version. Only then can it successfully handshake and validate. Once that's done, you finally reach Step 4, where you can safely re-enable PCBR.
To actually execute that manual disable step we just talked about, the interface makes it pretty straightforward. You just navigate through the settings icon over to General, and then hit Prism Central Backups. From that summary page, you just locate your target cluster, whether it's under continuous backup or point-in-time backup, and you simply select Remove. But a quick word of warning here. The moment PCBR is disabled, you are flying completely without a net. Your Prism Central resources are totally unprotected during this window. So remembering to re-enable it the exact second your Prism element cluster is up to the correct version is absolutely mandatory.
All right, let's move into Section 4, Exam Traps and Edge Cases. This is where we avoid those nasty pitfalls the exam writers love to set. First up, be extremely careful if a question tries to bait you into using alternative backup methods instead of native PCBR. You're going to see tempting options suggesting things like protection domain-based disaster recovery, or maybe some fancy third-party backup software, or even just taking a good old-fashioned hypervisor snapshot of the Prism Central virtual machine. Do any of those actually work? The answer is a resounding 100% no.
And here's the why behind that. According to Nutanix KB9850, taking traditional snapshots causes severe state inconsistencies between Prism Central and Prism Element. Think about it. Because Prism Central is constantly managing complex states across multiple clusters, a basic point-in-time hypervisor snapshot just misses the complete transactional state of those managed clusters. If you try to restore from one of those snapshots, it directly leads to random reboots, crazy service crashes, and severe manageability issues. Honestly, it's the IT equivalent of intentionally feeding a gremlin inside your system. Using anything other than PCBR makes your instance completely unrecoverable.
Okay, let's look at another major trap, and this one involves encryption. PCKMS. That stands for Prism Central Key Management System. This is the setup where Prism Central acts as the native key manager for the encrypted data sitting on your clusters. And this brings us right to a huge architectural limitation you absolutely have to know.
So here's the crucial detail. You cannot use a cluster running PCKMS as your PCBR backup target. If you think about the logic here, it makes perfect sense. Let's say Prism Central goes down. Well, your backup target cluster is still safely holding your backups, right? But if that specific cluster relies on Prism Central for its decryption keys and Prism Central is dead, you've just lost the very key manager you need to decrypt and recover your backup. It's literally like locking your keys inside your car. You're staring at a safe full of backups and you have absolutely no way to unlock them. The Alert Reference Guide actually flags this specifically as Alert A20350. Recovery from a PCKMS-enabled backup target is entirely unsupported. Don't fall for it.
Similarly, keep your eyes peeled for hypervisor compatibility questions. Like we mentioned earlier, you can back up to a maximum of 3 registered AHV or ESXi clusters, but strict architectural limits mean that clusters running Microsoft Hyper-V cannot be utilized as PCBR backup targets under any circumstances. So, if a multiple-choice scenario tries to sneak a Hyper-V cluster in as a potential backup destination, just cross it out instantly. It is a hard architectural no.
Finally, we've arrived at Section 5, Key Facts to Memorize. This is your mental cheat sheet for test day. I need you to burn these 4 unbending rules into your memory. Number 1, for on-prem targets, you are strictly capped at 3 AHV or ESXi clusters. Number 2, Hyper-V is a hard no as a backup target. Never going to happen. Number 3, backing up to PCMS-enabled targets will completely break your ability to recover because of that nasty encryption key dependency. And number 4, when you're configuring a generic S3 backup, both Prism Central and your target cluster mandate version 7.5.
So, now that you know the strict limitations, the exact version requirements, and those sneaky manual upgrade traps, take a hard look at your own infrastructure. Are you relying on unsupported snapshots because they were easy? Are you accidentally backing up to a cluster that relies on Prism Central for its encryption keys? Ask yourself, are you truly ready for a disaster? Or is your current strategy just an illusion of safety? Go check your configs, good luck crushing that NCP-MCI 7.5 exam, and keep learning.